Hello my friends, welcome to the Norwegian Sea. We're here in the U-boat, the Type 41, the latest and greatest U-boat that is available to us since the massive update here in May 2024. So yeah, all the way back in May 1944, 80 years ago, unbelievably, we are going to prosecute a convoy. It's the old chestnut of there's enemy shipping coming your way. They've got some sort of secretive technology, you know that one. I did start the new campaign in April 44, so I only had 5 officers. I've played a couple of missions, and you can see the first thing that I've gone and done is gotten myself that extra officer slot. So that's what I've done. We've got a full complement of torpedoes aboard. All the difficulty settings are enabled, and that means, amongst other things, we no longer get to see enemy contacts on the map. So if I come to the map view, here we are. We are the only ship that will appear on the map. I'm not sure if other U-boats will appear on the map or not. I've certainly not seen them. But that's it. If we zoom out, we've got our patrol sector, and we've also got, you know, where all the countries are. That's obvious. But we no longer get enemy ships marked. Even if we can see them, even if they're right next to us, even if we've got hydrophone guy and assistants, they no longer appear. So that means getting into position to prosecute a convoy is now a huge challenge if you like to play with the difficulty settings enabled. And that's what we're doing today. The only difficulty setting that is not enabled, but it no longer accounts against you, is this, the so-called cinematic camera. So what this means is we do not need to be strapped first-person view into the captain, what he can see, or one of the other officers. You know, we can get the camera and position it outside of the boat and do this. However, we can't cheat, and so what that means is if we dive down and we lower our periscope and we don't have a guy on the hydrophone operator, we won't actually be able to see any enemy ships, even if there's a ship right next to us, because we would have no way of knowing that if we don't have a periscope and somebody on the hydrophone. So there is that, but of course it would make it for a pretty boring stream if we were constantly first person. So enemy convoy apparently ahead of us, and so I'm going to dive down just briefly to periscope depth, and you can stay with us while I do this. And this is the way we're going to begin marking targets onto the map. So you can see real time here what this takes. Apparently it was about 30-35 seconds in real life to get the dive going once a crew was very well trained. Being the Type 41, this boat does displace slightly more than the Mark 7 or the Type 7C. That was the U-boat that was previously the only boat that you had in this game. So this boat, very similar in many respects. It's got a slightly better torpedo room, so they've arranged things a bit better. Higher grade steel, so we can dive deeper. It can also withstand depth charge attacks slightly closer. And the steel was slightly thicker on the hull as well, meaning this boat, you know, weighs slightly more with it. So there we go. So we're on periscope depth. Again, I'm trying to keep my officers pretty much rested because I am expecting this attack. So I've got Buxbaum. He's the newest officer, the one I think we actually picked him up after our last patrol. And he's having a listen. And you'll notice if and when he does pick anybody up, and I'm hoping he does, I may have to slow down so he's got a better, you know, it'll be easier for him. So let's go to silent running. Okay, so 355 degrees, he's picked up propellers, and there he says, ship propellers, large group bearing 355. So this is brilliant. Now remember, bearing 355 does not mean, oh, well, that's north minus 5 degrees. It's bearing 355 relative to our boat. So, you know, the direction that we're traveling is 0, minus 5 degrees off that. I realize that will be old hat to some, but there may be new people here. If it was a heading 355, of course, that would be north minus 5 degrees, but it's not heading, it's bearing, and it's really got to pay attention between the two on this game. They are used interchangeably sometimes and, of course, mean different things. So we're heading this way, and so apparently the group is just off us. Now, thankfully, they've got a new tool here, this tool here, and it's called the bearing tool. And what this does is literally enables us to see the bearing from our boat. And you'll notice as I pull it out, north is not, again, at the top. In this case, it's more like 80 degrees. And again, that's because this is bearing, not heading. And so if we zoom the map out and we look for 355, which is between, of course, here, what we can ascertain is that the enemy convoy, if I just click the one time, there we go, is somewhere along this dotted line. And so we're going to continue heading towards them and see what we can do with taking them out. And again, all the difficulty settings are on. It's not easy, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to pause you until we get a little bit closer. So until then, I'm going to surface the boat. I'm going to continue resting my officers with the exception of the second watch officer. We'll put him on, on the top, on lookout with 2 assistants. And as soon as he spots something, you'll be the first to know. Until then. Alright, we've just been told from topside that we've spotted funnel smoke, large group bearing 5 degrees. So if you remember when we started this, it was 355. Now it's 5 degrees, so although we've been traveling in a straight line, that would suggest the convoy is traveling slightly from our left to our right. Of course, they're coming towards us the whole time. Now, I can just see from up there a sort of little dot on the horizon. I'm not sure if it shows on the stream, on the video, so I'm going to grab the binos here on top. Just scan the horizon. Not seeing anything on this zoom, so we'll zoom in. It's of course possible that we saw it from the camera in its elevated position because the game does simulate a curved earth is one of the difficulty options that, like all the rest of them, are enabled. So that does make it much harder to see ships as you'd expect. And there just about is a mast. You may have to look carefully, but there is a mast right there. If I put my cross beneath it in the water, if I hover my mouse, there we go. The mouse is actually giving it away. Look at that with that little triangle. And that is most definitely moving towards our right-hand side. So what that means is we need to turn right now. I'm still not sure whether to have the boat in line with the convoy as it approaches us to make it harder for the enemy destroyers to spot us on the Azdic, or whether we should be perpendicular ready for the shot. But again, if we're ready for the shot and we get spotted, it doesn't really matter because we've got to start evading. So maybe I've answered my own question there. For those wondering what I'm talking about, when the enemy sonar, what was called the Azdic, is pinging you, if they ping you like this, sideways on, you've got the entire length of the submarine forming like a big wall that reflects that ping. Whereas if you're facing either front or back, and again the ping comes out, you can see it's much more pencil shaped. The chances that that ping's going to get picked up by the destroyer is much less. Of course, if you've got multiple destroyers from different directions, clearly that sort of that principle goes a bit out the window as to which way to face. But yeah, and that is not only how it was, but I know for a fact is simulated in this game because I read as much. So we'll try and line up with the convoy, but for now I'm going to take a 90-degree turn to the right, be more or less perpendicular with regards to the course of the convoy. We'll pick up the pace. We'll go flank speed, I think, because, you know, we need to get into position. We can already see the very tops of the masts. Forgive me for the ringing and binging. But as we get there, we'll then, if we've got time, hang a left so that we're in line with the convoy once more, hopefully proceeding directly towards us. We'll dive down. I think what I'm going to try and do this time, and I know this is my first time streaming this since the update, but I've tried remaining silent at periscope depth. I get picked up both with scope up and down. I've tried going down to about 80 meters. I've gotten picked up there. So I think this time I'm going to try and going much deeper, remaining completely silent. We do have the option here for silent running. Now, before, the way that this was achieved was simply by enabling the blue light. Now this is actually two separate options. So blue light just gets rid of jobs that are not essential, whereas silent running, the way that I understand it, is it prevents even maintenance of torpedoes, which of course, you know, to pull them out of the tube and open them up and spin up gyros and whatnot, keep them running, all of that makes a sound. You know, chains are being pulled on pulleys and whatnot. And so clearly, if you're trying to remain completely silent, it's important you don't do that. But of course, the trade-off is your torpedoes probably won't be ready to fire at a moment's notice. So what I'm hoping is that the destroyers with their sensitive listening equipment will travel overhead. Once they've done that, I will look at raising up within the convoy, hopefully, and hopefully all the various propellers from all the ships will mask my sound. And once that's been achieved, we'll get rid of silent mode, allow the crew to maintain the torpedoes, and then hopefully have a go at the ships. Hopefully we can sink one or two before the destroyers become interested. And again, because we can't see these on a map, so here we see smoke detected on the horizon. We've got the blobs there. If we come over to map view, as you can see, there's nothing marked on the map. So I'm just going to get rid of some of these useless markings. But you can see there's no, you know, it used to be you would see this approximate position, smoke this way, and then of course you'd see the individual ships. As you can see, there's literally nothing, and of course that makes it more fun. We're actually heading just to the right of north. I think I'm going to change that to due north. Distance wise, I'm not sure how far I want to go. I'm just clicking here just to give myself that 360 on the heading. So if we take a look through the binos once more, we'll start at 310 and we will sweep left. And, you know, reading books from the submariners in World War II, whether it was German or the American, who, of course, operated predominantly in the Pacific with their subs, you could be open ocean, nobody seeing anything, and half an hour later have a destroyer on top of you. So that's how quick you went from an empty horizon to, you know, being dealt with. Obviously, aircraft much quicker than that, but so I'm glad you were with me for that. The alarm's been rung as they've identified, and you can see there are a few more statements. If you remember, there was only like 3 or 4 things you'd hear the crew say over and over again. You know, talking about being out at sea too long, that sort of thing. Well, now, thankfully, there's a whole bunch more things, and there was one of them. You know, take your positions, remember your training. You know, there's a bunch more. Hopefully we'll hear them. So, I'm not seeing too many other ships, but this one certainly seems to be the nearest one to me. And I'm not sure if I can get a lock on it with the scope. The waves might be too choppy to hold the lock. And the only reason I say that is it's going to allow me to look at other things. And it does seem... Oh, we have gotten a lock. Hopefully it won't break. And what that's going to enable me to do is to use other parts of the ship and come back to this view and keep my eyes on where that ship is. So in this case, it's what, 290, 295 on the bearing. So I've got to think, right, well, that's to my left, maybe an hour. You know, if I was to view it as a clock, he's maybe on my 10 o'clock position relative to my direction of travel. Now I'm flanking, and you can see that this guy's not in line with me. He's actually zigging as well, so he's heading that way, and so I've got to try and head that way to cut him off. I was hoping that the angles weren't going to be quite as big as this, but they are. And so what I'm going to do is bring you back in a bit. Hopefully I'll be in a more suitable position, because right now I'm not happy with where I am. It's currently 27 minutes past 5 in the evening on the 17th of May. So I'll bring you back in about 5 or 10 minutes. Now here we are, exactly 5 or 6 minutes later, and you can see the boat is still heading slightly ahead of us, but no longer is the angle quite as extreme. You can see he's much closer. In fact, there's a slight risk that we may be spotted, and this guy could potentially be a destroyer as well. If I just zoom out, you see he's almost on my 270, so I've made a bit of progress in getting ahead of the convoy, but they're getting uncomfortably close. Yeah, if I take a look further to the left, there you can see that for sure is a large cargo ship, potentially Liberty class. We've got another boat there. Actually, these are somewhat behind us. We're now more or less... I'm going to come to a slow reverse, because I think we're heading into this guy's path. Now that guy looks to be a destroyer. As we sweep north, we've got another ship or so there. I'm aware we've got a very specific orders to sink that very specific ship, the Samskern. I'm just going to take shots at whichever ship that I can. If we take a look on the map view, I'm now going to use my... let's have a look. Use my reversing slowly to just get my boat facing towards. Hopefully, therefore, they won't be able to detect me. We've got alarm mode on, so I'm going to get my assistance with the captain. We're going to turn gyro compass off, and we'll set ourselves for silence. So we'll go blue lighting, enable the silent running, get rid of the electric dive planes, and that, insofar as U-boat game goes, that's as quiet as we can get our boat to be. And with it, let's make our way down to periscope depth, at least initially. This guy here, Carlson, needs to be... there he is. He's getting onto the scope as we speak. And scope is raised. Of course, we've not yet dived, but still. So we need to take a look to our left. There we go, our port. So this was the nearest to us, I believe. Let's get this periscope as high as we can get it. Of course, it's never ideal to attack during the day, but again, it's light up here 24/7 at this stage of the year. Again, reversing quietly just to get off this guy's path, and there you can see on our bearing now we're more or less facing the convoy, which is perfect. So I'm good to go into slow running and just manually place this guy on my 0 degrees on the bearing. And once we've achieved that, I'll look at diving down. Let's get it done. We are silent running, so moving through the water slowly, and with it turns very slow. Let's just give it slow just to get it done. Just 10 degrees left. And I'm not entirely sure how accurate you need to be, but I think that right there will do. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the closer he gets, that angle's going to increase somewhat anyway, as he is going to slightly drift to our right now. So I'm guessing he's a destroyer, so he's certainly one to watch for. This one here is a cargo ship that appears to be heading directly for us. And then we've got a couple more nice juicy targets there. These will probably be the ones that we'll end up going for. So when we dive down, we'll face the convoy, hopefully not get picked up. This is the plan. We'll go deep. When we start coming up, once we assume the destroyers hopefully have missed us, we're going to silent run in, begin a left turn to line up to these couple of guys, come up to periscope depth, and hope that this doesn't shear our pipe off. That's the plan. Of course, we'll have our hydrophone guy listening out, and hopefully that'll not be the case. All right, well, let's tell Carson then, lower the scope. And down we go. So let's go to 200 meters. And with a bit of luck, this is what's required to not get picked up. Now, our dive... let's have a look here. If we take the cinematic camera, is very slow. It can be sped up by, you know, adding power onto the propellers and pitching the planes down. But we're just using the ballast tanks to sink there. So down she goes. That does actually look pretty cool. Down she goes.
35 Meter.
Okay. I will let you know once we're down there, and we'll see what's what. And here we are. We're about 200 meters, give or take. It's bobbling up and down slightly. So you can see map view. We've got a hydro guy on. He's got his assistant. Here's the range. He's picking up targets, but again, I can't hit this home enough as to what a difference it makes not seeing contacts on the map. I'll just turn that sound down some because, of course, they're very close. So I think we'll switch to medium. That creaking is, of course, our boat. I'm just going to reduce the cut-off frequency a bit. Gives you extra range, does that. So one of the clues as to whether we've been detected, we can hear the alarms ringing on the ship, but the propellers are very rhythmic, like that. Once the destroyers pick us up and start trying to intercept, you'll hear the propellers like. So that together with the alarms, or if we just hear the propellers and not the alarms, or we hear the alarms and not the propellers, there's that. Now another thing we'll hear is the ping. And it doesn't sound like sand being thrown against the hull in this game. It sounds like a ping. I think that's a Hollywood thing that's just stuck. But in any case, we will hear it. Just because we've heard one doesn't mean we've been picked up. It just means they're looking for us or looking for someone. And they may just be looking, not see anything and carry on. So if we hear a ping... Usually our crew says, oh, we've been picked up by a ping, is not necessarily the case. It's the alarms and the high propellers that we're listening out for. Now, if we hear ping, 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 then that would indicate that they've got a lock on us and they're basically tracking us. So you've got to think here, and this guy, I don't know what he's doing, but it's a bit freaky. Yeah, off you go. Alright, so far all is well. Of course, we can twist this wheel round. And this here were where those two large Liberty, I think they were Liberty ships. They may have even been a Freedom ship there. Either way, that's them. Now, the only thing that we can do down here is with regards to the position of that destroyer that was slightly off our 1 o'clock position. Well, he's not yet gone past us, so if we dial this back, I reckon that there is the destroyer. It's a smaller ship, it's quieter, it's on about our half 12 position. Thankfully, each one of these is by the clock, so it's easy to see 12, 1, 2, 3. This is the guy that we basically need to get to around our 4 to 5 o'clock position, 4 o'clock, so that we're somewhat behind him, and by extension, we're between him. If he was to look behind, he would actually see a friendly convoy ship, and we would be in the middle of that, and then hopefully that convoy ship behind us will mask any sounds that we might make. At least that's the plan. Few minutes have passed. He's just gotten to our 2 o'clock position. So far, no signs have been detected. Kinda nerve-wracking, but hopefully this might work. I'll bring you back once he's at the 3 o'clock. Well, it's taken only 2 or 3 minutes and he's already at our 3 o'clock position, so he's clearly been getting closer to us the whole time, so he's about there now. So hopefully once he gets to about this position, we can think about starting to pop up to periscope depth. As of yet, no sounds of any alarms. I've not heard any pings, no nothing. Map view again, we see nothing. Been over that. So now is time. Just a couple more minutes and then we will do what we said. Start that left turn, silent running. Hiya, sweetheart. She's come to say hello. You've come to help us out, haven't you, darling? Hey? He's looking at me like, what you on about? Well, that's what we were waiting for. The propeller there on our... just passing our 4 o'clock now. So I think with that, we're going to raise up. So let's make it straight for periscope depth. Just to make this turn easy, because of course we're facing west, I'm going to manually give myself the heading using the map to south. We're going to go silent running. As we're going to get rid of silent mode. And you can see there, this guy begins work on the torpedoes. So it's important now I stay with the sub because I need to listen for clues. Of course, the crew do read things out, but you know, when they read so many things out, such as the height changing every 5 or 10 meters, it's not always important, but that can very easily tread on a more important piece of information.
160 Meter.
So we've been able to maintain one of the torpedoes so far, is now working on another. And once my turn is complete, whatever that is, then again we'll come to a stop. So this turn, together with the maintenance, together with the rise up to periscope depth, is going to take a little moment more, and I'll bring you back once we're a little closer to the surface. Well, here we are, just passing through 40 meters. We're still in silent running, and we're making our way towards the surface. So there we go, 20 meters. I did decide to get my guy, the mechanic, the engineer who was on engines, to improve depth keeping, because we're not requiring to flank the engines. Well, raise scope. So we've got captain on the command station with his assistants. We've got the first watch officer. He's going to be on the scope. We've got Barsh on depth keeping. We've got the hydrophone guy, and we're going to have Bushbaum which is, of course, one of the new changes operating the TDC. And so with that, let's see if we can get anything done. And we've managed actually not to be detected. So make sure we're zoomed out. And we've got our first target there, one of the Empire ones. There indeed is a Liberty class just passing our bow. We haven't been detected. Due to the delay in getting the gyros synced, I'm not sure that's the one I'm going to go for. This was the guy who we saw, I think, heading more or less straight for us as we were diving down. There's a destroyer behind us. And that was the initial destroyer that we were waiting to pass to our sort of 4 or 5 o'clock. So everybody there's been accounted for. There's another destroyer on the starboard bow of the convoy, or relative to the convoy, perhaps we should say. This guy is also quite far away for a shot, so this guy I think we're going to go for. So what looks like an oiler. We're still going slow speed, which is fine. We are a little far away. So let's try and ID this guy. We've got the 2 masts, the 2 structures, and it might be a first time lucky. I mean, if we take a very look at the front of the ship, just there is this little lip, and that's what I'm seeing here. We've got the 2 masts, and we've also got a mast on the front of that structure. So I'm happy that this is the so-called Dale class. Now, almost always these sort of convoys go 11 or 12 kilometers an hour, but I shouldn't assume. So let's come to a stop. I do think that sounds really cool now. And we'll get onto the front of the boat. Start the clock. I'm just going to lower the periscope a bit. I realise it's daytime, but there's not anybody too close. Yeah, we do got to worry about that ship that's approaching us from our right. And again, not being able to press M or the map and quickly see where all the ships are makes this much more of a challenge. Now, once this guy... Let's raise the scope again so we can be somewhat accurate with the stern. Now, set 15. Okay, so going perhaps a little faster than usual. So we'll once again line ourselves up with the middle of target. So the next one is the course, and it looks like we're just through the 45. So we'll get the AOB. It's looking somewhere between 50 and 60. I think that'll do. And now, of course, we need to tell our TDC guy the speed. Tell him the course.
5 Grad.
Green. And now we need to tell him the distance. So getting the scope as high as I can to get this as accurate as possible. Whenever there are 2 masts that are slightly offset, I try and split the difference. It's going to be about there. So 2, to me it feels like he's closer than 2 kilometers. You sure? Let's try that again from the middle zoom. And the water line. I'm trying to split these 2 masts. I mean, they say the highest mast. It could be, excuse me, that the mast there is slightly higher, so I should perhaps go from that one there. See, it makes quite a difference, 300 meters or so. I'll try just one more time. And again, not being able to see them on the map means you can't cheat. I didn't get why players would, they would stream and they would constantly use the map to get distances and bearings even. And I just thought, why even play if you're going to play it like that? 1982, do you know what? I'm just going to put the information in.
9, 8, 3 Meter.
So we'll get our tubes up there. And I've got, this guy's got to maintain. This guy is mechanic. Maybe there's no room to maintain these tubes because, of course, we're full. Okay. Now, if we miss, I want the torpedo to come left. And we'll run at depth of 2 meters. Flood tube 3. Speed. Well, why not have a high-speed shot? And we want to split of around 32 meters. Right, I'm just going to drop the range. That should be fine. Okay, let's... Los. Oh, I'm glad it waited for that confirmation there, because as you can see, this light where my mouse is gyro angle synchronizing is not yet white. So once you've figured out the speed, the course, the distance, you've then got to tell them the speed, the course, the distance, and so that's been done, and then you've got to wait for this, which has now been done. So in theory, and this is, what's that, about 7 degrees off the bow in our favor, so almost a perfect shot. I'm just going to pause the game, and I realize that this is somewhat cheating, but because it is a stream, let's follow on the torpedo. So there we see the torpedo. I'm going to have to keep pausing it because the camera can't actually move quick enough to keep up with them. So there's the boat. There's the torpedo. Actually, maybe we can if we just follow the... follow them like that. There we go. What do you think then? Do you think it's going to hit? Where have they gone? There they are. Pretty close together considering they were to be 30 meters apart. Quietly confident. Quietly confident. We did have the slower torpedo. There we go. They are now splitting up. That's quite nice. 40 seconds, they reckon. I don't think it's going to be that long. Although there's a chance this one may... Oh, is it going to... No, that's a hit. That's a hit. We've got them. Bang. Oh, that's going to be a one-hit wonder. The other one hit as well, but that first one would have been a guaranteed sinking. There we go. All right, very happy with that. So now, no time to waste, because of course everybody knows we're here. So we'll go. Nice. So we've already sank our target more than 7,000 tons. So that was just the one ship. So we zoom out on the periscope. Oh, look at this guy right behind us.
Kommandant, feindliche Schiffe machen sich gefechtsbereit.
He could have seen us. So I want to come left and have a pop at this. Now, I could have taken a shot with the rear tube. The problem is, I just think he's too close. So let's try. Freighter, is this the Liberty? No, this is the Freedom class, or what they call the C3. Velocity, we've already got that. It's 15 kmh, and we'll radio that off. Course, well, we're past the 90, aren't we? It's about 105. He's zigging and zagging, so of course it's always a little more difficult. Distance-wise, well, he's very close. Excuse me. Right, there we go. 485. We will
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren.
describe that.
0,5 Grad.
Yeah, unfortunately, tell you what.
Ruder 25.
I am going to flood the rear tube. Let's just try it.
Bewässern.
Distance. Let's get an updated distance and we'll just tell them it straight away.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren.
103 degrees. It's close enough. He's slowly zigging back towards us. So although he's way above 103 angle on bow, because he's turning towards us, it might be okay.
Los. 40 Sekunden. bis
Right,
der
out
Pilot
goes
abgleicht.
tube 5. Once again, just for the purposes of the stream. Wink, wink. We'll have a little look at following the torpedo. Again, it's not really cheating, is it? Because it doesn't give us any advantage. I suppose the advantage is if you completely keep missing, then you can see where by how much you're missing. I think this may or may not have been my first homing torpedo. If not, the second torpedo in the rear tube is a homing torpedo.
20 Sekunden.
Where's the, there it is. Oh, that could well connect, you know. Oh no! What's it doing? The torpedo is running wild. Look at this. It's turning right. The torpedo has run erratic. Gotta be. I mean, there's a chance, right, that could come and hit us. Now, it always used to be, of course, you could see on the map if a torpedo was running erratic. And you could, you know, dive or do whatever had to be done. But in this case, nice. Zigging and zagging. It's possible I just completely messed up on the FAT settings that for a zigzag. I didn't actually look at them, in all fairness. So maybe the torpedo was set to start zagging after just like 100 meters or something daft. But if that's the case, unless this heads straight now.
Kommandant, feindliche Schiffe geben Alarm. Keine Panik. Konzentriert euch.
Go on, keep going straight. And this may actually hit. I think we might have one here. Oh, yes, there we go. Got there eventually. Serious damage. But is it enough, is the question. Well, started fire. Of course, you know, if my life depended on it, I'd be on the scope and either lining up for another shot or thinking about diving down. But she's already listing very heavily. The stern is almost out the water. You can see the propeller there. And the crew, look at that, are abandoning ship. Now we can hear sonar. Unlock.
Wir wurden entdeckt.
Das wird nicht einfach, aber wir haben schon Schlimmeres
Alright, so zoom out and we hear the pinging there. So it's time for a quick rotation. And this guy looks like he's got our number. And with the head shock devices that are available at this stage of the war, there's nothing else for it. We need to go down.
Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter.
I think it's time to silent running. We're going to put this guy on engines.
Wir wurden von Estig geortet.
And I'm just going to give it full power.
25 Meter.
Now I do carry a pill with me should I need. We'll put him on damage control because we're not using the TDC at this stage.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr
He can bring down the scope and
20 Meter.
may as well be on command as well.
Meter.
So we're certainly getting down deeper quicker by using flank speed. Of course, we're giving away our position. I think what I'm going to do at this stage is deploy one of our decoys.
85 Meter.
And I'm going to ask to roll out my sub on a roughly easterly heading, because of course that's the general direction of the convoy. And so my hope will be that the destroyers are going to go for my decoy.
Halbe Fahrt voraus.
I'm going to reduce engine to half speed and stay there until I hear the depth charges, hopefully going for the decoy. Once we hear the depth charges, we'll use that as cover to flank west, and hopefully, while the destroyers are busy trying to destroy our countermeasures, we may have open season with another ship somewhere else. I've just gotten a notification that we're low on navigation accuracy. We're down to just 15%, so that's something that I didn't want to happen. Maybe we can have the watch officer work on navigation there.
Aktuelle Tiefe 155 Meter.
So you can hear now what I was talking about earlier, the propeller that much faster. So, we know for sure those destroyers are in gear. Now, one thing that we do have that can be helpful if we come to this external view is, as we rotate the camera around the sub, we've got this little compass rose at the top of the screen there, and that's showing us not just the heading on the actual compass. So as you see, the front of our sub in this case is not north, is actually the heading that we're on, so we're almost east here. We also see where all these propellers are, these bands, and because we've identified them as enemy from when we were looking through the periscope, and because we've had a continuous contact with them the whole time, because we've got this guy on hydrophone, he was able to say, aha, that noise is that enemy ship, and providing we don't lose him off hydrophone. So, if we would tell him to do something else than hydrophone, obviously we've lost who's who at that point. But we know they're all enemy, and so we can hopefully keep track of these red bands. And the red bands that we see that are relatively still are probably the convoy. If we see like 3 red bands that are still, and then we've got this 1 red band that's going this way or that way, that's probably the destroyer. And of course, the faster the contact is moving relative to us, that means the contact is very close to us. So once we see red bands moving quickly, we know they're close. And then if we hear depth charges, well, deeper, change course, speed up, or all 3. Just trying to see if we've got an example. I think here's maybe one. This guy here, you see he's about to go through 255. So you see this one here is heading, as we see it, to our left, whereas the others are relatively still. Although actually this one's coming left as well all of a sudden. So I think there are 2 destroyers that way. They're heading our ways. So this one is possibly he's just done a turn. That's why he was still when we first looked, and as he continues his turn heading towards us, is now moving much quicker. And again, the only information we have is the bearing. Of course, we can hear that they're pretty close, but that's basically it. Well, I reckon that obviously that way they're now being behind our boat, that those 2 destroyers are probably circling over that decoy. Now I say probably, again we're fairly late war now, we're in the last quarter of the war, May 1944, so there's another 12 months to go. The Allies were wise to these decoy pills, and so while it may have fooled some of them some of the time, it didn't always work, and certainly didn't work as well as it did You know, if you were chucking these out in, you know, certainly in the game 1940 era, you were tying them up, you know, for 30, 40 minutes sometimes. Okay, so absent of any depth charges or anything else, I'll bring you back. If we take a look at our depth, we're down just below 200 meters, so I'm hoping that they can't hear us. I may... Tell you what, let's get this guy doing the maintenance, and we'll get this guy on the engines. That's the way it should be. Depth keeping, of course, not so crucial now that we're down here. Can hear that one destroyer getting closer and closer. Well, it's 2 or 3 minutes later, just after 6:30 now of the evening, and I'm hearing pings repeatedly. So I'm not sure if they're pinging the decoy, or if they've heard the decoy, figured out it's a decoy, and are actually pinging me. And that glug there, that was hedgehog devices. I've got no choice but to flank speed, and I'm going to go full starboard, because if they did have our number and chuck those hedgehogs down, they sink awfully quickly. And the first we'll know about it is when we're heavily damaged going to the bottom of the sea. So flank speed. Depth charges, we can hear them there. So those depth charges are most certainly going for that decoy. It's too far behind us. So I'm going to reduce to full speed. Again, hoping that we don't get detected. There's somebody pretty close to us there. Again, just looking at this convoy contact. And again, we know this because our sonar guy, our hydrophone guy, I forever mix them up, is giving us the continuous updates here. And of course, to some extent, you can hear the propellers, right? Although, definitely need a hydrophone guy. So yeah, this very fast contact moving to our left, to our port, is obviously a ship that's up that way. So if we're here, the ship is coming up there to our left. Although I'm showing it there, that's probably a better way. It's passing us like that. And as long as he passes us and continues heading towards that decoy, where it sounds like there's a lot of subs, a lot of boats chucking off their depth charges, that's fine. What we don't want is to make too much noise and this guy to think, well, I see all my pals are over there, but I'm hearing something here. We need this guy to keep going. Of course, as boats are coming in and chucking off their depth charges, they continue on and then double back round before heading back. So there's always a chance that we get some of those. May just be out there doing the turn, but they may have also heard something. So here, 1839. Pings again. So I'm going to adjust my heading. What's this about? I want to be roughly 090 again. Roughly. Certainly if these guys are more or less behind me. Keep my pencil end facing them so that they have less of a chance of picking me up, or at least that's the plan. I think something like that'll do. Of course, there's that blind spot behind our propellers anyway. Sounds like there's somebody closing on me. I see just how different this game is. That right there's the hedgehog. Full starboard. Flank speed. He was very, very close. Oh, look at that. I think that's right over the top of us, man.
Schraubengeräusche direkt über uns. Schraubengeräusche direkt über uns.
I'm going to go even deeper. Holy moly, that was close. I'm going to abort pursuing this convoy. I'm going to switch. Silent running is now enabled.
115 Grad.
So we know the convoy was trending east. Of course, the easiest way might be to go west. I actually think it's sometimes better to come off, so the opposite direction, but off the off where they came from by about 45 degrees. Of course, this is generally my way home anyway, towards the south. I'm going to switch now to slow running.
215 Meter.
And I'm hoping that we can get away. Now, clearly those hedgehogs didn't impact our boat. We would have known about it if they did. And they're set not to detonate unless they do, which is important from their point of view, because if they don't blow up, they don't create a sound that we can use to escape. They just remain silent, which is why they're so deadly. They also sink much quicker versus traditional depth charges. So, very deadly device. Not least, of course, they could be fired ahead of a boat that was, you know, if a boat's coming towards us, they can fire them a few hundred feet ahead of the boat and sink, whereas the depth charges could just be chucked off the side or out the back. So, terrible invention from the U-boat point of view, and that's why if you take a look how many U-boats were being lost at this stage of the war, you were losing 20 U-boats a month at this point, and they were sinking less ships than that. This sound here, let's have a look. This way, I think. This sound here are the electric engines. So here, pretty noisy, even while we're at slow running. If I switch this over to silent running, you could definitely notice the tone there down, but I mean, it's anything but silent, certainly in here. So, no two ways about it, that's a destroyer. The speed of the propeller is the giveaway. Depth charge is very close. So once again, let's give it a few degrees. We've gone half speed. Actually, I'm going to go flank. We'll go that way, and then the plan is to go this way again. Depth charge is very close. Well, I'm hoping because we're so deep. Well, there we go. Just about make up a slight reflection on the sub there. You see it's black, but that slight glow. Oh, that one was close. Shaking of the boat. Oh, that is close. we have... Right. Holy moly. Shit. Holy moly, man. This is really, really close. Let's come full to port. How are they so accurate? We're so deep. Who needs help? That's a bit further away. I'm telling you, man, this is a different game. It's the torpedo tube that's been damaged, and there you can see we do have a guy on the damage control party. Right, let's... I'm going to go to silent running because they clearly got something on us. So I'll go to silent running with regards to the engines and continue our southerly trend. And again, my plan, guys, is just to continue doing this. I'm hoping I can get away if I get picked up once more. But you can see this is such a challenge now. So much fun. And again, one false move. I mean, so how close those depth charges were. I reckon if I had the old 7C U-boat that this game was always about, not this more modern Type 41, I reckon those depth charges combined with the depth we were at would have finished us off. As you see, we got some damage to the torpedo tube at the back. It was hair-raising. I've just heard a shed load of hedgehogs come down. Now I'm tempting to go flank speed. The problem is if I do that, I sort of give away my position. I'm going to go slow speed and just hope that my depth is enough to mask the sound. I mean, if those... I can close the bulkheads, but I think at this depth, it's not going to matter that much anyway. And again, the hedgehogs, I mean, we hear nothing until it's too late, or they miss. Terrifying weapon. Some distance away. Well, that's the first bit of good news we've had for some time. I'm going to keep on slow running. Bring you back. It's 10 minutes to 7 in the evening. A few more minutes have passed. I'm on silent running and just gotten word depth charge is very close. I've heard hedgehogs in the meanwhile as well, just the same as before. Didn't bring you back for it because, of course, you know, unless they hit, there's nothing much really to show. What sounds like distant rumbling. Yet if these depth charges do start going off, I'm going to try and use it as a cover just to go a little bit quicker for a while. Being so deep though, it's going to take them a long time to get to our depth. And again, that's... I do think they've got a pretty good idea where we are, but I'm just hoping the further I get away from their convoy, I'm hoping that at some point they're going to leave us alone, and they will run out of depth charges, clearly. But if we take a look at this, they're about 19 kilometers away from where the convoy is. So if there were 2 U-boats or a U-boat pack operating, this would be the perfect ideal solution, because I don't know how many destroyers I've pulled off. Perhaps we can have a guess here if we take a look. So over there, I reckon this is the majority of these contacts are the convoy. So we've got this guy here who appears to be moving fairly quickly. We've got this contact here. So there's at least 2 contacts that are on our number at the minute, but they have chucked a lot down, and I'm hoping at some point that they'll run out. I mean, this guy here is incredibly close. So once more, it's a case of waiting and hoping that he doesn't chuck his stuff off. I mean, I realise it's been a longer video than usual, guys, but you can see there's a lot more to this game now. It's a lot more fun and challenging. If like me, if like me, you start coughing when you start talking, you like a challenge, and you found this game was, okay, it's a challenge until you figure it out. Once you figure it out, it quickly becomes far too easy to play. Of course, if you get caught on the surface by a plane that's got the guided rockets or the guided torpedo that homes in on your engine, the acoustic, at that point it's nothing to do with skill. You're done. You know, it's a flip of a coin and then some if you're going to get away from that at all or not. The skill is never getting yourself into that position in the first place. And of course, when you don't have to worry about dying for real, it's a lot easier to think, I just want to get to where I'm going as quickly as possible, rather than thinking, but should be under the water during the day. But this now adds a whole new layer to everything. And again, I can't just press map view, see where all the contacts are, and then plan myself the optimal escape route. Those days are over, and that's what makes this fun. It's going to take 3 or 4 times as longer to complete the missions as it used to do, because from first identifying where the convoy is, you've then got to get close enough to the convoy to have a rough sighting of a ship to then even guess which way are they heading. Are they heading towards me? Are they heading that way? Are they heading that way? And once you know that, you've then got to run around and get yourself into the new guesstimated position. And all of that takes time. And all of that was something you could do with time compression map view, and it took, 30-40 seconds back in the day? No more. You're looking at 5 or more minutes at the minimum to do something like that. And while you're getting the hang of it, like I still am, much longer.
195 Grad.
Sounds like our hydro guy has picked up that this contact here coming up behind us is a corvette. Probably the most dangerous ships for us. It's being much smaller. They're more maneuverable. They're very difficult for us to hit using torpedoes, but they're so deadly. A quick look elsewhere. Well, very clearly that's the convoy heading to our northeast. Well, as we pass 7 o'clock in the evening, either these guys have lost us or they're running low on ammo. Either way, I'm going to continue creeping out. I'll bring you back. Well, 5 or 6 minutes have passed and we've just had depth charges chucked at us again. There are at least 2 or 3 ships that approached us from distance. I reckon they still know where we are. So I'm flanking speed. They've chucked depth charges. Of course, it's going to take them a while to get down here. Oh, there we go. Okay, well, we'll come slightly left. Slightly port, seeing as they seem to be over our starboard. Problem is, if the depth charges start blowing up, sort of close middle distance, and then they start coming closer and closer because the boat was coming towards you as they were chucking them out. It's like, okay, so the first few missed, but it's a bit air racing like that. They're definitely getting closer, man. Oh, now we've got the hedgehogs as well. Did you hear? That's almost like Microsoft Solitaire used to sound when it was dealing the pack of cards. Well, at least we'll be able to go flank speed for a little bit as we use these reverberations to escape. Now, in real life, those reverberations cancelled out their ability to hear for about 15 minutes. I don't think it's anything like 15 minutes in this game. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but we can see, or used to be able to see until they blocked, you know, the difficulty setting. Depth charges would go off, you lost all the contacts, you know, clearly, right? You can't hear them anymore. But within, what, 15 seconds after the last one blowing up, the contacts reappeared on the map. Now, apparently in real life it was more like 15 minutes. And so there's the last explosion. And so with it, I'm going to go silent running again. Because, I mean, if we can see in 15 seconds, probably so can the AI. Or the destroyers, perhaps I should call them. And once again, let's make our way slowly trending away. And you can see there is our hydrophone operator's range increases. The water's settling down. Once again, Aztec. Half of this video has been trying to escape these guys once they got our number. Depth charges again. It's still daytime, unfortunately, so we can't even think about surfacing the boat and escaping up there. I have just heard a chain of about 30 depth charges. Boom, boom, boom. Still going. I've used the whole time to escape. Now, as you can see here, my sub is apparently starting to take damage. Of course, this is the anti-air gun and so on. We've been deep for a long time now. Very deep. The control room, as you can see, is starting to take a bit of water as well. Just no choice. Well, with the last step charges having finished some time ago, let's go back to silent running. There we go to map view, and you can see the hydrophone operator's range increasing there as well. Wow. Those of you that had headphones or had some sort of bassy speakers, you will have heard that rumbling. Just wind it back 15 seconds and listen. I just hope they run out of depth charges soon, man, because I can't stay down here forever. I mean, power-wise, oxygen-wise, things aren't too bad. But at some point, something's going to break, and I'm not going to be able to fix it in time. Or at some point, they're going to get lucky. Depth charges once again. Well, let's go starboard this time. I'm going to go slow. Silent running gives me, what, about 5 kilometers an hour, so that's a slow walk. It's walking pace, isn't it? It's about 3 miles an hour. It's not that slow. It's a brisk walking pace, but it's no more. Slow running, what's that giving me? 7. Do I get 7 or do I get 8? I've got an 8. So that's more like a jogging pace. Ooh, hedgehogs. Flank speed, and there's certainly oh, that one was closer. I'm just going to give myself the heading 28 degrees. There we go. You can see there the reflection off the sub, and again, this is where having this external view is almost like a cheat. We can see based off the reflections where these are. Now these are off starboard, but I actually think those depth charges were way off ahead of us. Let us know if you what you thought there, but silent running one sport. And now
Betrachten Sie es als erledigt, Herr Kanoi. Kommandant, wir wurden von Estig geortet.
ship.
Direkt über uns. Schraubengeräusche.
Ship.
Kommandant, feindliche Schiffe.
We've got at least 4 destroyers right on top of us.
Schraubengeräusche. Direkt über uns.
At least 4. We know the drill. Let's turn the tables. How are we going to turn the tables when there's 4 destroyers / corvettes right on top of us with our number? Thank goodness I rested my crew before all of this began, because this is testing them to the brink. Also, we had good discipline. With that current depth, -68 a minute. Too much work from officers. Neglected food preparation. Well, yeah. Detected -10 a minute. Fatigue. You know, they're getting ready for a break as well. I think this is it's either their 3rd or 4th mission since the beginning of the campaign, and they haven't had a break that time. Be cool to see. Okay, we got water in there. Be cool if when the people walked through that you saw, you know, like steps in the puddle. But I do, you know, we can see there the sort of reflection in the water. That looks cool. Yeah, it just needs some splashes as they walk through. I guess that's probably a bit too complicated to do for some games like this. I'm not quite sure how the programming on all of that goes, but this is going to be a very difficult escape. I realise it's taken a lot longer than I thought, but I'm just showing you just how involved this game is now. We're maintaining on silent running. Some of you may be aware, hang on, why have you got diesel engine selected? You need to be on electric. Thankfully, the engineers are clever enough to know that you can't use diesels underwater, so they will automatically switch to electric. The only difference this actually makes is if I do switch to electric, when we surface the boat, they will continue to use the electric engines. In this mode, once we surface, they'll automatically switch over to the diesels. So that's actually the only reason to ever change this from diesels to electric. Regulars to the game will, of course, know that that's the case. Whether it was or it wasn't in real life, I have no idea. I imagine they were probably told, turn the diesels on. Depth charge is close. 1 spore. I'm just going to stay on silent running. Keep going straight and trust we'll be okay. It's 19 minutes past 7 in the evening. And destroyers have still got our number. We can see the contacts there. There's 2 to our starboard bow. Northeast, that's sort of the direction of the convoy. You can see those contacts there beginning to fade somewhat. We've got 2 more here off the port stern. I think they were just hoping for a lucky guess. Seems to be a little bit of the same thing, so I will bring you back. Rather than just next time there's a depth charge, I'll bring you back in a little while. Hopefully we'll be a bit further away, but if we take a look at this, you can see that since we last looked at the map, we've progressed roughly 4.8 kilometers, and all of that's been at this incredibly deep level. So yeah, thanks to the Type 41 without a doubt of which we will have been sunk by now.
Das wird nicht einfach.
But we must be at least 22 kilometers from the convoy. And bearing in mind, the convoy was heading this way. So it's possible that by now, the convoy is, you know, it could even be somewhere over there. So these escort ships really have peeled off to deal with us. So they're desperate to sink us. I think we did get, I can't remember if it was 2 ships or 3. I don't even know if we need to go back and finish one off. I can't remember if we, you know, there was that big one that we saw keeling over. I'm unsure if we got the kill or not. We were too busy trying to do other things. We certainly got the oil tanker. I think that was it, actually, those 2. Let's have a look, actually. Queued messages. Newtown sunk, patrol completed. Actually, no, look at that. Newton sunk or Newtown sunk. So we've only got 1 confirmed sinking. That means that other one's probably just listing heavily. So once we escape these, I'll have to go back and finish it off. That should be easy. But for now, I'm going to continue. I'm going to just continue creeping on silent speed. Hedgehogs incredibly close. I just heard the boat go over the top, and as it did, it went with its hedgehogs. And you can hear how close they are. That's why I feel okay flanking. I know I said I wouldn't bring you back, but that was so close. I thought it's possible that we're going to get taken out with it. There's an interview, if you look for it on YouTube, with a German guy who was a submariner. Unfortunately, the quality is not great, but there is an interview. And he describes being in a boat that, as it was depth charged, and he says there is no other feeling like it. And he said, and this is, I hear people saying different things. He said everybody did look up at the ceiling in the boat when it happened, because he said when you're down there being quiet, there is nothing else to do, and that's where you hear the sound, so people just naturally looked up. But I've heard other people say, no, people didn't look up because there was nothing to see. That's just a Hollywood myth. So, I don't know, man. I mean, I tend to believe the guy that was actually there versus so-called experts that who knows where they get their information from. But, so there is that tidbit. Back to silent running. We can hear the depth charges way behind us. I might never get away. I've just had, while I've been trying to escape, you see we're shortly after 9 o'clock now. The water's slowly filling up, and one of my crew members was about to panic. Now, I had that skill on one of the officers to calm down a panicked crew member, but that has been used now. So what I need to do, I'm not sure if we've got it in the journal. It may or may not report. No, unfortunately not. So when we get back to port, the crew member that panicked, what they call a coward, I'll have to rotate them off the boat and get another crew member, because of, you know, these crew members basically become useless in the heat of battle, just as in real life. And, you know, the game, you know, simulates that pretty well by you basically need to the officers basically need to knock them out, physically knock them out, so they stop screaming and whatever it is, obviously giving away potentially the position and upsetting the rest of the crew. Of course, that sort of thing spreads. So yeah, it's best to get rid of those people as quickly as possible. Of course, everybody's scared, there's no two ways about it, but there's being scared and then there's cracking up because of the fear, and usually those people are never identified until it happens. Of course, it didn't just happen on the U-boats, and it was often the people that you would least expect. So people that were often the strongest and that were the first willing to have a fight were also, on occasion, the first to panic. And I guess because it's not about being strong and being able to win someone in a fight, is it? It's you're at the mercy of the odds of where the depth charges go, and maybe some of these people just don't like that. You know, people that are used to being on the receiving end of such a of such a thing are probably better able to handle it because they're just more used to it. And again, it's just one of those weird things, right? You hear about it all the time. If you look at memoirs, they call it the baptism of fire, and everybody knows about it, and everybody's obviously hopes that they will handle their baptism of fire with dignity and impress their colleagues, because, you know, it was the thing that you feared most, right? Was letting your comrades down. Of course, you become like a tight-knit family, you know, whether it's on a sub or as a platoon out in wherever it is, you become like a family. Of course, the military types will explain it's a bond like no other. And yeah, anyway, propellers sound a little bit further away than they did before, so hopefully this is starting to work. Should do. We've been down here for literally hours. Good news, it's been at least 20 minutes since we've last heard a propeller. It's been probably about half an hour since I last heard a depth charge. You can see us there. We're still creeping through the depths at silent speed, but I think it's time we can risk surfacing a little bit. So we're not going to come all the way up, but I just want to take us out of the extreme depths. I'll feel much safer if we can do that. So coming back in the boat, let's just get out of the red band. Let's go for like 150, 160 meters, somewhere around there. Hopefully we'll start to see this depth meter unwind. Of course, there is a bit of buoyancy thanks to the water here. We actually get some information. What have we got? Does it say? We've got just over 6.5 tons of water. You know, 1 meter or 1 cubic meter of water is a ton. It depends whose ton. I'm aware the American tons slightly differ, but all of this water is having an impact on the boat by 5%. So it's something that we need to take into account. But it does appear there that our depth is slowly beginning to unwind. And so all's good. So assuming I hear nothing as we continue to go up, I'll just continue to reissue the orders. Still got 95% compressed air in the tank, so you know we could blow and cancel a couple of times if we need to. The air quality is, however, taking its toll. People are tired, they need a rest, so I think it's once we get out the red, I will cancel the alarm, let the crew rest who need to rest. These two officers in particular in the middle there, our hydro as well as our chief engineer, need to sleep, as does the second watch officer. So all of these, it's important that happens. But yeah, it's just going to be a slow climb to the surface. I'm not going to risk expediting anything. Could have a sneaky destroyer up there that's just cut the engines out and is waiting, so we're going to take this very slow. Well, here we are, and I was far from sure to think that we would ever see a sight like this again. We finally made it to the surface. We're still on silent running, or should I say periscope depth, but it's the surface basically. And just having a quick look round, making sure that there are no destroyers just sat there with the engines cut out. I've seen it before in this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if they would do so again. But it would appear that the coast is clear. Sea's pretty choppy, so it's taken a bit longer to perform the sweep than otherwise might be. But yeah, there we go. And so I've already cancelled the alarm. I'm actually going to send off the radio reports with regards to what we've seen. Yeah. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity. We'll get half speed on. As with the convoy training east, I just want to double back, make sure we get the that ship finished off, so that we get paid for that. So with that there, I think we can get the gyro on. We can get the pump on to get the water out of the compartments. We'll get the electric compressor on to recharge our compressed air. We'll switch lighting back to normal. We'll get rid of silent running. We'll open the bulkheads, of course, and set the dive planes back to electric. And so there we go. Back on the top. We've got our engineer performing repairs there. Boom. They might get this other guy to do a repair as well. I realise he's tired, but I think Barsh was the guy who gets, I believe, recovers some scrap from the repairs. Because, of course, the parts cost money and how it is. Right, let's send this message off for a second time. Cannot continue when there are enemies nearby. Well, we'll have a look. We can hear the repairs being conducted there. Just much easier to see from up here because the chop doesn't obscure the periscope quite so much. Just give us sweet. Doesn't appear to be any. So these weapons are, and again, it's unclear to me if they were destroyed just because we were very deep, or if they were destroyed because of the depth charges, or some sort of combination of the two. So I think we lost pretty much all our anti-air stuff. It's now being fixed. Hopefully Barsh will get some credit for that. Doesn't appear to be anybody on the horizon. Corvette 163. Dismiss that. I think that's an old notification. Alright, well, providing the coast remains clear, what we need to do is head back towards where we were. And hopefully we'll find the ship in that area there. I'm assuming we'll just see it on the first pass, but just in case we don't, I've set myself up a pattern there. Some of these markings with regards to our escape. We'll keep that one there just because just so that we know where we were, just in case we do struggle to locate this. But this, once we do so, hopefully should just be a case of routine at this point, and then we'll head back. So I realise it's been a long episode, but it's just the way things are now. There's that much to it that there didn't used to be. It's just a fantastic challenge. It's if you like challenges and to geek out on these sort of things as realistic as possible, this game is now up there with the realism options that were available on Silent Hunter 4, only of course we've got the better graphics. Take a look at this. It's coming up to 2:15 in the morning on the 18th of May, and as you can see, sun's still above the horizon, as of course it is in real life in these parts of the world. I've been unable to find the boat. I've been going back and forth for hours and been looking around with the binos, stopping. I wouldn't say I've been, combing every single inch, but every half hour or so I've given a good look round, and I just can't find anything. And usually you'd have sort of a notification of nearby contacts here. I just don't see them. Of course, the technology that we were supposed to sink is unfortunately going to get away, but we've taken such a battering and it's been such a lengthy video. I feel exhausted. No doubt you do too. It's going to be another 13 to 1400 kilometers until we get home. And so we're going to lay in a course, and I'll see you there right now. 3 days later, here we go. Right, Port of Bergen, 20th of May, 1944. And here we come. We'll skip the cinematics. Daniel Lorenz was arrested. So this was, I believe it actually took place before I pressed record. So for me, it was yesterday. There was a crew member, one of these new things that happened, actually had a fight with another crew member, and I was allowed as captain to decide what you wish to do. And there were only two choices. There was let him off with a warning or give him a court-martial. Now, I was going to pick let him off with a warning, but it actually let you see what would happen based on what you chose. And if you gave him a court-martial, you'd get this massive discipline bonus for the entire rest of the crew. But if you let them off with a warning, the actual discipline for the entire crew would fall. There was no middle ground. There was no, well, punish them and say if it happens again. There was none of that. It was black and white decision. So unfortunately, he's gotten himself arrested, and there's that. So there we can see. I think my newest officer's gotten his second patrol. And otherwise, things have been there. We've completed the, or rather, we've continued the progress. Got 40,000 out of the 50,000 tons I need. No longer is it a case of being able to get 50,000 tons in just one patrol. That used to happen quite easily until these updates. We've got... So there we go. Actually, that oiler was almost 15,000 tons, so that was good. Unfortunately, you see there, we didn't get credit for the Liberty ship that we almost certainly sunk. But in any case, never mind. And nor did we actually... I don't think we ever ID'd the ship that we were supposed to go after. But in any other case, we've done okay. We've gotten paid. We've gotten towards our next experience point. So we're back in the harbour now in Norway. So I think what I'm going to do, let's just shut the radio off now because our crew's going to require a break anyway. Come on, get into position. Come on, pal. There we go. You can't actually stop the music until he's manning the station, but that's now been sorted. Okay, so I don't think we got any survivors, but just to check, no, we didn't. Okay. Oh, yeah, when it comes to who we're going to get, of course, because we've gotten our guy that was arrested, so we need to replace them. So let's have a look at the crew. Do we have a... Yes, there we do. So David Peters, that guy's the coward. Luther was the guy that was hospitalized by the guy that did the attack. Our medic was able to save him or he would have died, but that's a nice touch as well. So this guy we see here has been arrested, Lorenz. So he's obviously taken out of the equation for fighting. The injured guy's taken out of the equation. And so Peters... If at all possible, I want rid of this guy. There we go. So he's no longer aboard as well. It looks like it did that automatically. So if we take a look at the crew, we've actually only got 18 out of the 20 sailors that we need, or that I would like to have. Thankfully, we've got 2 sailors ready to go, so we don't need to recruit anybody new. So I used to read the files, but frankly, it doesn't really make any difference. I found... What matters is, at least since the updates, this kind of stuff. So there we go. We've got our full complement once more, so that's good. I like to just set things up ready for the following, I was going to say stream, but mission. So come over to our guy here. Let's see if we can possibly upgrade any part of the ship, because our crew's going to go on leave. It's always the best time to upgrade the boat's appearance. It takes 5 hours. I like this. This is new as well, being able to put some camouflage on. We'll go with We'll go with pattern number 3. That's fairly... How much does it cost? Could at least give us a clue, right? I'll tell you what, we'll do the more important things first. So I don't want to get a shock on the bill, because of course we've only got a limited amount of money. So I'll tell you what, we best stock up on the actual bits and bobs first. Actually, what can we upgrade? Let's have a little look. That's just Christmas tree, right? Radio room. Okay, so we don't have anything. The Metox is able to detect radar waves and play warning on ship's speakers. It's controlled from the listening room. Detect radar waves. Doesn't emit any radiation, but at the cost of detection range. So I guess the first one is a radar, but of course we can be detected. The second one is just a listener, so I guess like your raw, that detects enemy radars basically. 14,000 that's gonna cost me. Listening room, 16,000 for a better hydro. That's probably more important to me. Looks like the toilet upgrade has been completed. Have we got anything else aside from the tree? The anti-radar coated snorkel by 12,000 just to put some paint on that's anti-radar. We've got so I actually find that the electric engines are already a bit overpowered in this. They seem to last an awful long time underwater without charge, and that's before we've even upgraded them. So I'm not entirely convinced on that. Conning tower. Well, that's cool. We've already got the best one, so there is that. We've got the emblem. I guess this is just getting rid of the gun. It is. So in terms of updates or upgrades, clearly the hydrophone would be a good one, as well as the radar, whether it's the active or the passive detector. All useful stuff. Shame you can't have both and then decide to be either active or passive, depending on, but it is what it is, I suppose. Let's have a look then at equipment. So the decoys, of course, incredibly important, as we've just seen. So I'm just going to buy the one more. Again, they cost 2,000 a piece. So we want that. There's from our repairs. So at some point we'll give our mechanic the ability to turn scrap back into new parts. If we come over to foods, definitely need that, so we'll take all the free potatoes that we can get, and then some of the cheaper food. I guess, how much is 80 vegetables? 2,000. Okay, but once it's done, it's done. Takes, I don't know why it takes days to load food. Look at this, 1 day, 16 hours to load 42 pouches of dried potato and 80 tins of vegetables or whatever. I don't understand why they make food so long to load, whereas fuel is basically instantaneous. I mean, come on, what's all that about? Items wise, coffee cost a fortune. It's 1,000 marks for a cup of coffee. I see why, because it basically gives your officers extra time. Now, we could potentially afford the gun. We haven't got one yet. The problem is we also need torpedoes. Take a look at the tube. Front and back tubes are full, so the stern storage, we've got room. Again, I like these Seeker ones, certainly for the back. Could probably do one for the front as well. Oh, we've got Seeker in. The Tech 2, so these are your battery torpedoes, but not very good. That's why they're free. Prefer this one here, the Steam, with the better detonator. I'm just trying to hold on to the 10,000 so I can at least get myself the gun, which is of course required to then board enemy ships if we ever get to that stage, although most ships are just no longer alone anymore, but still nice to have the option. I think I am just going to get rid of that old torpedo and then get this cheaper one as well, just because it's cheap. We'll come over to the items. We'll get ourselves the gun and then it's done. That leaves us with 1,500. We could get... Oh, we could get one helmet. You know what? Let's just do it. And then at least we've got some protection for an escorting officer. And with that, we're spent up. Goodbye. Right, we need to give our crew a little rest. We've got no money. And my crew needs a break. Yeah, and we're going to have to take the free one. Discipline penalties resets only a couple of weeks, but it is what it is. Bang. And with it, 14 days. That is going to be the end of a long stream. Look at that. It's been 1 hour, 45 minutes. But I do hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, do give it a like. Make sure you're subscribed if you've not already. Ring the bell if you want to be told when there's a new video. Otherwise, don't. And until next time, wherever in the world you may be, somewhere from Norway in the 3rd of June, 1944. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Take care. Bye-bye.